Hello, I am back. There's more to talk about with these two books. Now, here is the original one right here. We're getting back on the floor because I don't like this angle on me and I'm not feeling my body today. This is the original one. And then this is the remix. Now, we were talking about things. This is what I changed. Originally, in this one, Jesse's sitting and talking with Brooklyn. Now, there was a problem where it was, does Jesse live at the hotel or does Jesse spend her nights at the guest house? I don't know. So I went back and I changed that right here. I put this on. Don't bark. It's always this way. Hey, stop! One second. Hey, come here. Come here. Don't be murdered. Hey, you're done. Stop. No. Come here, young man. Hey, listen. This right here is the menace that starts all of the drama. Look at this. And you want to know his best friend in the whole world? Come here. You wanted to get a little vocal, so let's let the people see your face, Piper. Come on. Show them that pretty face of yours. Anyway, where were we? Right. Does she live at the... There's no point in me doing this, ever. Good God. Come here. What is the deal? Why? Does she live at the hotel? Or does she live at the pound? Huh? No, it's okay, Wishbone. Hey. No. Stop. Wishbone. It's okay. Does she live at the hotel? Or does she live at the guest house? So once I got that done, there was no conversation on the porch at night. So the conversation that happened on the porch happened while Jessie was waiting for her mom. And originally they were talking about her grandma and how she had no memories of her. And so what she was doing was she was saying there was this weird wet and herbal smell, and then Brooklyn made like a marijuana joke because they're from Colorado. So I took that out and I decided to change it to, because there was this whole thing about Jesse's grandma going to find her and then just finding out she was dead. There was the herbal smell. Brooklyn's truck got destroyed by a tornado, so he had to go buy a new one. The person who drove the truck smoked clove cigarettes. That unlocked a memory in Jesse's mind. Jesse went to the library and Googled Alma Kincaid. I'm going to get to that in a minute. And found out Alma Kincaid had died of lung cancer a long time ago. Let me read what I changed it to, and then I'll read what I had. At Dad's funeral, the pastor rattled off on a lukewarm recounting of Dad's life. Casey Kincaid, born of godly parents in 1979, left this earth to return to our Father in heaven. Jesse tuned out when he got to the part about Dad's accident. The details were fuzzy, and Mom was never too forthcoming with how he was injured, only saying that his head had been hit twice, causing him to end up in the state he was in. And if you weren't here for this morning, Jesse's dad was in a vegetative state for like 10 years, and then he died while she was visiting him one day. As they approached over his coffin, the headstone caught her eye. A portrait of a woman with poofy hair, 70s glasses, and a chubby face shared the father. Maud Kincaid died 6 years ago. Jessie wanted to throw sand in her mom's face for not letting know her grandmother before she died. Now, the way I changed it was, or the way I had it before. Oh my gosh, Piper, you're ruining my life. Get up in that chair. So, it's not that one, it's different. Aha, so Brooklyn rolled down his window and tossed the multiple air fresheners out the window. The mix of cigarettes and Mountain Spring scent brought back a memory to Jessie. A woman with a self-rolled cigarette sat her down and handed her a little book. Her mom was in a kitchen with a man sitting on his lap and kissing him. She got up and started walking into a kitchen so small, the yellow vintage table took up most of the space. The tiles had cigarette burns and were chipped away at the corner. The only thing that looked relatively new was the painted red door. She walked to it, knowing where to step so she wouldn't catch a toe on the corner of the tile. Then she heard her dad's voice. Playing with the raindrops, kid? He picked her up and placed her in a high chair before leaving the room. So this dad's just like, I'm done with you, kid. You're annoying me. Stuff you in a chair. And the reason why she's Maud now is because somebody forgets that they have characters' names that they've used. So there's an Alma Parker in here. Because this book is about a girl who goes back in time. She encounters this creepy fish man. And she gets sent back in time. I'm going to read you the first excerpt of this. I did it in an interesting way. Like, this whole series, this is the first one. That's the second one. And this is the third one. This is a thick boy. I didn't do chapters because I started it on Wattpad. So I did it kind of like this, where it's segments, right? So, anyway, this one's called The Goblin Realm. Okay. This one's going to be pretty insane, but I hope you like it. All the curves of a number 2 pencil, Tessa groaned as the inspector shoved her up and through the tiny hole in the floor. Sorry, this space won't accommodate Marla's hips, the inspector called from below. He could have at least been a gentleman. Handling her like she was a bag of sticks wasn't very nice. She felt around for a light, flicking it on. What do you see? The inspector asked. Leaning over the trapdoor, she said, I'm on the other side. Have Marla show you how to open the door. Are you sure you're on the other side? Advancing to the darkened space before her, Tessa snaked her arm around, finding old appliances nearly tumbling over an opened oven door. Tessa stifled a scream and clenched her legs together. The radiating pain of smacking her leg into something made her nearly pee her pants. Eyes adjusted to the darkness, she carefully stepped around the room and flicked that light on too. The lighting in this house hadn't been updated since the 50s. An old green Frigidaire spewed out leaves and shelves onto the floor. Tessa attempted to close the oven door, only yanking it off as she did so. Placing it on the range, she advanced, looked down, and found them gone. I'm going to put my wiener dog on the chair real quick. Oh, come here, wiener dog. Let's get you up where it's comfy. We love wiener dogs. Anyway. Oh, she only hadn't wasted her last break playing some battery-sucking game on her phone. She'd at least have a flashlight in here. As her toes crossed the threshold of the room ahead of her, fear rooted Tessa in her spot, anxiety building up inside her. Lack of breath brought her to her knees. Her trick of pressing her face to something cold to ease the nerves didn't work. This place was warm all over. Crawling like a trapped rat, she advanced into the darkness, looking for a cold surface. Once inside a bathroom, she laid her face on the impossible clean floor, and her breathing returned to normal. Pins and needles racked her body as she pulled her knees into herself, clamping her hands around her head. She can't lie this time. She's not okay. Even if she attempts to utter the words, the breath leaves her again. Giving into tears, she pulls at her hair, unable to worry how stupid it would look when she's found. Sometimes I shift tenses. I didn't even realize that. If you're ever found. It was like a thought in her voice, but not in her head. As calm as she'll ever be, she rose to her feet, slowly advancing to the door, finding a switch and flicking it on. The bathroom was small, barely any cupboard space, no linen closet, and toilet mere inches from the sink. A small tub she'd have to bend to fit in encompassed the far wall. The entire bathroom was a shade of what could be described as hot Cheeto orange. Their voices came from the other side of the house. As Tessa walked to the door ready to be out of this room, a thing slid down from the ceiling. It was tall as her. By the way, Tessa's like 6'4", with white skin, but not like a Caucasian person's would be. Looked like paint or dye. Her hand fell from her chest, and Tessa eyed the monster before her, looking into its eyes, if they could even be called that. Two black, empty shapes stared back at her. It had regular arms, but its other extremities were too far down its body. Instead of feet, he had a fish fin, 2 extra arms just above the fin. There were no features on him, only smooth white skin like whale blubber. Puppies are fighting. His mouth opened, looking as if his lips were carved into his face, dripping like melting wax. His teeth were the only thing with any character. Half expecting them to be razor sharp, Tessa was surprised to see regular human teeth, only appearing to be like somebody who's had chewed too much tobacco. A lance came from an oak compartment in his chest and penetrated hers. It opened up, not hurting, but pinching like a pelvic exam. Women understand that specific pinch. "It's not yours," he said, his voice sounding unctuous and wet. A clamp came from within the thing in her chest cavity and snatched her heart from her. She should have fallen down on the ground, should have died, or at least felt more pain. All it felt like was when she picked a scab and no blood came out. The heart left her, sliding down the tiny needle like prey through a snake. It entered the compartment, sliding up to his mouth so he could chew on it, open-mouthed. Disgust overwhelmed Tessa, and she attempted to pull away, finding he had her. His hands had her arms at the shoulders, his fingers wrapping down and around the length of her slender arms. A different heart slid out of the compartment and into Tessa's chest, twisting painfully into place. He backed up and severed the connection. Her new heart was in place only seconds before her arms were flung out and locked in place. Her mouth opened, and something unseen was shoved down deep into her throat, moving around in an unnatural way, tasting like engine oil and having what felt like knobby deposits that seemed to bite and brand her insides. She bent over and puked on the floor. Her arms were restrained by something invisible, as from within, 8 spots along her back burned like she'd been held to a hot stove. The monster was gone, and no matter how long she screamed, nobody was coming to her rescue. Freed but woozy, Tessa stood, vision blurred. She went for the exit, falling through endlessly. And then she ends up in 1922 in this guy's house. And here's the thing. Alma was a popular name in 1922 for women. I looked it up. So I couldn't have an Alma Kincaid and an Alma Parker, especially if I tied these 2 books together in this frickin' thing. Let's be back to this one. Things we were talking about. I was trying really hard to be funny with this frickin' book. I had not written a harmless YA in a while. Like, if I can give you a bit of who I am as a person and what I do. This is upside down backwards. This is Chenille. This is about a girl who is released from prison and seduces her parole officer, has his baby, and has to game the system to get out of her manslaughter charge so she can get time served and all of that stuff. And I'll read you the blurb. Recently released from jail, sociopath Chenille Patterson faces spending the remaining 5 years of her sentence in a halfway house. Content to just do her time and leave this life behind once her sentence is over, Chenille keeps to herself. However, plots are afoot to stop her from living that life she desperately wants. Temptation comes in the form of a new person in charge of the halfway house in which she resides. And no one is what they claim to be, not even him. feel like that should be a different sentence. Chenille is determined to keep her dream of the future intact, even if it means she has to kill to do it. This one, I know this is not impressive to a lot of people, but to me it's impressive because this has 7 reviews. And if you are an indie author and you're not exactly tearing up the charts, because this is like 2 millionth something, this one's like 3. I don't have it, but if you can see that up in the corner, there's Vincent D'Onofrio, and then there's that little road one. That's one of my lowest rated ones at like 4 million. Unfortunately, this is not taking off. This one has everything. This one has time travel, it has romance, it has tentacles, it has let's see. It has like a big 7 foot, this whole series has a big 7 foot man that looks like Jesus, and his name is Lemek. And I was thinking, if I was ever to get to a point where I was respected enough that people could buy merch, you remember all those shirts from a long time ago that were like, Jesus is my homeboy? And then this band from Utah called The Used had Bert is my homeboy. But yeah, I was thinking of having something be Lemek is my homeboy, and if you're religious, the Witch of Enoch is not for you, because in the Witch of Enoch there's these Pangean gods that before the continents drifted and separated apart, they were all just living their best life, except maybe they were inbreeding a little too much. And so what happened was Lemek suggested making copies for breeding, and then another person, another god, that was weird, suggested making copies for fighting. And then that alludes to creating the human race, a bunch of people that were built for fighting and fucking all the time. And Lemek, since he looks like Jesus, they crucified his copy. So that's something that if you're religious, this book series is not for you. But if you're not religious, this book series has all the stuff. Tentacles, time travel, doppelgangers. Maybe I can find Tessa's doppelganger and describe it to you. Oh, and it does go back and forth from third person with Tessa to first person with Claudius. My original intention was to have Claudius, his name was originally supposed to be Caspian, but that sounded too much like Casper, and he's a ghost, and I didn't want people to do that. Then I found myself quoting a lot of Shakespeare during this because it just seemed fitting. And it's not like I'm a Shakespearean auteur. I do not know Shakespeare too well. And you know what I did? I just decided, what? Hamlet, that's my favorite Shakespearean thing. C, Claudius, okay. And then I was listening to Alizé, and Alizé loves Russell Brand. And for some reason, I was thinking about Theodore Roosevelt at that time. So I came up with his whole name would be Claudius Theodore Brand. Okay. Oh no, this is where, so Tessa finds Claudius's journals in this book right here. And she starts reading them. And people don't want her to read them. So what she does is she ends up, just retreating within herself. She sees him on Halloween because he's able to be seen by her, and her dad comes out because she thinks her friends told him something bad happened to her, and nothing bad happened to her. And I'm not going to get into what Claudius showed her because that's spoilers, but it's why he is not like going on or passing on to the next level. So he uses some WD-40 and he gets in and he steals her journals and puts them on a copier. However, Claudius sort of taints them, so he changes the journals from what they were to something creepy and gross. And speaking of creepy and gross, okay, shaking his head, he turned away. He's tired. That's all it is. His daughter, once so beautiful and full of life, was spiraling out of control, and he had been awake for a long time. Adrena was being mean to her. That girl could be so manipulative sometimes. Once he showered off the day, he walked into his bedroom to see Tessa making out with someone on his bed. "God damn it, Tessa," he said, advancing to her. He pulled her back to find a rotting corpse underneath her, worms and bugs crawling in and out of the dirt. Tessa resumed kissing it. "Tessa, stop! Tessa!" When I did that, I think I just lost my one viewer. When I wrote that, I got on Twitter and I did, "When you write this scene," and then someone's like, "Oh, that was a lot." They disappeared before his eyes. John wandered through his giant house looking for anyone and went into the security room. In every corner of the rooms with the cameras stood a man looking at a wall or staring at something in the distance. There were 2 cameras in Brody's room, and that same man was in the frame of both of them. He was in the frame of many cameras in the living room and sitting on a table just staring at the floor. In the kitchen, he was moving like he was dancing. At first staring at the floor and then directly at the camera. It was Claudius. His eyes taunted him. With a little wave of his fingers, him and his many copies disappeared. "Oh God, Tessa, what have you gotten yourself into?" So then they have like a little conversation, and Tessa calls and asks, "Why did you like not let me have stuff that my mom had for me?" Because Tessa's mom is dead. And she's like, "Something Adrena said is getting to me." And he's like, "No, it's fine. Whatever, it's not a big deal," because he's the gaslight dad of the century. Anyway, so a voice came from his laundry room. "Don't you worry about what I'll do when I come back." John went to the room, flipped the light on, and found nothing. "No one comes back from the dead." "Oh, but that is where you're wrong." The voice now sounded like it was coming from the den. He went there and flicked that light on to find that room empty as well. "If she finds out what type of man you are, is she still going to love you?" "Tessa, that's quite enough." "You know I'm not Tessa." "She was outside. She had to be outside. God damn it, where are you?" he said, looking around his massive backyard. "Oh, I don't know. I might be in the shed. I might be under your bed. I might be in the shower. I might be there in an hour." "Enough with the creepy Dr. Seuss and tell me where you are," he screamed. The voice deepened. "In your head." Tears escaped his eyes and he crumbled to the floor. John is getting like gaslit by a ghost real bad. So we're scribbling along here. We're gonna try and find where... Oh, this is where Tessa, the ghost of Claudius's father is a real peach, wrecks her really bad, busts her up. We're gonna get to the place where it's Tessa's doppelganger. It's a Penny Dreadful version of her. Okay. While she was off filling out a form saying she would only take what the police deemed okay, I went upstairs to find the thing standing in the corner. I'm not unfamiliar with these things. They were close to what their counterparts looked like, but they were often horrifying recreations of the person they mimicked. This one had claw-like fingers, a wraith figure with knobby angles, and a mouth that looked like the lips had been worn away by water, complete with those cold and dead silver and gray eyes all of these imitations of people had. In an attempt to appear as human as possible, they'd pick up tics or quirks. This one was staring at the floor, opening seeds and dropping them on the floor. She was standing over a box simply labeled books. They were the pieces I'd left behind. I found that box that held the ivory blade. I knew it was in there. Her suitcase was open. I took the parcel. The knife was still in and placed in the suitcase. Motion down the hall made her drop and hide under the bed. It was quite impressive how still they could be when not wanting to be found. She, Tessa, arrived in the room, stopping dead in her tracks, breathing heavily as she spied the box of books with a substantial dusting of debris from the seats. She lapsed into a fit of hysterics, falling to her knees and heaving, pulling at her hair, rocking back and forth. She almost saw her doppelganger, Rufus. She almost saw it. No way, man. That's crazy. I think I've been going for 10 minutes. They said you want to do points, rewards. I'm all about rewards programs. That's why my name is Sunshine Butterbean, because at one time I had difficulty trying to get a Shell rewards card and a Subway rewards card because my real name is 3 syllables long. And hey, don't eat the boy. You know, we play nice with Puppy. My real name is like 3 syllables long, and Shell and Subway kept saying, put in a real name. So I made a joke on Twitter that you should let me use my real name, even if my real name were Sunshine Butterbean. So here we are. I am Sunshine Butterbean. I was going to read something else to do with this. Oh, right. So let's see. We're going to read the revised new thing. Jessie watched the small town disappear out her window and give way to scattered houses and fields of corn. Why don't we speak to my grandparents? Jessie asked. Your father's mother thought she was in charge and wanted to put him down like some common animal, Mom said with sadness in her voice, not forgetting her rage at her father's funeral. Jessie ignored her mom's sad tone and said, well, she's dead. It's not like she can bother you anymore. Her mother cast a sideways glance at her. Pulling her knee into her chest, Jessie asked, what about his dad? His dad went out for milk and never came back. And your parents? Jessie asked, annoyed. She had to prod her mom into answering. Trust me, you don't want to know them. Shouldn't that be my choice? With hostility in her eyes, Mom snapped, no, I'm the parent, and you can make your own choices when you're an adult. That's not good enough anymore. Why are you sniffing my hair? You're fine. I'm going to need a reason why I can't speak with them, Jessie said, ignoring this tired line her mom always used. I told them I don't believe in God, and they disowned me. Mom's tone showed annoyance with each question. Pulling at her hair in frustration, Jessie scoffed and softly said, wow. What's wow? Mom demanded. For a woman who's supposedly an atheist, you sure moved us from church to church. Mom pressed her lips together and looked away guiltily. Snorting with mocking laughter, Jessie said, it's because you were exploiting them for money, wasn't it? Mom said nothing. It was all so clear. Mom went from religion to religion, cried at the pulpit, letting them know where they can donate. If they lived in a more diverse state, they were from Utah, she would have tried the churches outside of Christianity. Taking the turn too sharply and not slowing down for potholes, Mom asked, why is this so damn important to you now? Her voice broke the silence, startling Jessie. Annoyed by her mom's cagey responses, Jessie said, I didn't have a choice before. I had to worry about Dad. The weight of what she couldn't say settled on her. She wanted her childhood back, wanted a choice in whether or not every weekend was watching someone die. Oh, how she hated when her mom's rotation left her with days off during the week. If she thought the school would allow it, Jessie was sure she'd excuse her from school those days, and then she'd spend 8 hours by him, talking nonsense about her mother's job and Jessie's day at school. Hot tears rolled down her face as Brooklyn's farm was in sight. Relief came as they pulled up to the gate. Even as her mom snapped at her, open it, Jessie was glad to be away from her for the hours she'd work for Brooklyn. Now, there's that. That's chapter 5. I don't know if it's the same in this one. Now, we're going to talk about something. It was the people, like I said many times before, Jessie... Oh, wait, now it's just chapter 4. See, things are different. The people were more keen on adding stupid lines. There was one where Jessie was talking with Brooklyn, and I shit you not, he's just, giving her a bad time because she was getting all flirty with this boy named Jared down at the store, and Brooklyn's known Jared's grandfather since 1989. So, they're talking, and she said, you can accept or reject anything you want. And I'm like, all right, accept or reject. Sounds good. And then there was a line where I don't even understand it. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I wanted this book for Gen Z. And I think this is closer to Gen Z. I don't know what the fuck this was. I cannot believe it. Anyway, I'm going to get to the point. She turned to see if he had morphed into Chuck Woolery. Chuck fucking Woolery. The goddamn game show host that your boomer grandparents know. What the fuck? I stared at that for a good solid minute and I was like, that should have been a big red flag that this company was bullshit. And they're suffering, and I'm glad. They lost one of their writers. They had to park their domain name in like July. Because I stalk them quite frequently because I don't want these fuckers stealing my hot dog shit. This is my hot dog shit, okay? Sorry. But here's the original chapter. Hey, Mom. Jessie sat in the front seat of her mom's old Mercury wishing the heater hadn't gone out last fall. That's one of their lines. Yes, Mom said, yawning. What was Dad like before the accident? Jessie watched the small town disappear out her window and give way to scattered houses and fields of corn. He was troubled, sweetie. His mom had him when she was young and his dad ran away. Jessie only focused on one word her mother said. So I have a grandmother I didn't know about? Honey, you don't want to meet her. She's not a nice person, Mom said with sadness in her voice. What makes her not a nice person? Did she hurt Dad? That was their line. Mom hesitated for a moment, but then decided her daughter was old enough to learn about the horrid woman that was her grandmother. That was their line. The day after his accident, she tried to have him put down like a dog. I took him away, making sure she'd never find us again. What about your mom and dad? I told them I don't believe in God and they disowned me. Mom's tone was showing annoyance with each question. Yeah, I kept that line. It wasn't bad. Jessie prepared herself for her next question, knowing it would make her mom mad. Would you be upset if I wanted to get to know them? And then, like, why do you want to do this now? And then, yeah. Now, here's the thing I fucked up on that's still fucked up. Christmas songs. There's this one part where Jessie's talking about how she hated the Christmas song and then she hated Jingle Bells. But it's apparently not. It's Jingle Bells and Over the River and Through the Woods are two entirely different Christmas songs. And if I didn't hate Christmas songs, I'd probably know that. Anyway, I just like trying to think of something that's different. There's just a lot that's like, unfortunately in formatting, ended up with like 2 blank pages. So obnoxious. This one came to me quick because it came from Texas. This one was from Illinois. I like to look in the back and see the things. Delaware? What? Why? Why so far away? Delaware. They're all getting printed from Delaware. If there are any people still watching at all, what I would recommend is getting your books done glossy, because if you ever want to put, okay, let's see. Unfortunately, look how so if we go up close, you can kind of see that picture looks a little pixelated. It looks a little better here. I like this thing soft, and if you choose matte, just remember that what you're choosing, that unfortunately with matte, like I had a book called Sophie's Key, my friend Jody Jensen wrote it. It's a print-on-demand thing, and you have to be careful. You can't carry them in bags and shit, because Sophie's Key, it frayed really, really bad. Like, it turned a little corner. And yeah, I did read the book pretty aggressively, and I did enjoy it. I didn't enjoy Matchmaker's Charm so much, but that's another story. But I put Chenille in one of those book library things a while ago, and when I went to get it back, it felt like it had melted a little bit. And this one, your fingerprints will be stuck on it forever and ever. This one you can at least wipe your fingerprints off of. But yeah, I'm trying to think. There was something I was thinking of last night that I was going to talk about, and I should do before I go away. I feel like Jessie is a much better character. Things work a little better. Of course, if you want to buy any of these, you can find them linked in my bio. I have changed so many things. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what I changed recently that was like way different than before. Oh yeah, I remember. I had this. You ever have your brain give you a mind movie to where it's not a daydream, it's just this crazy scenario that couldn't possibly happen? Like going to fucking Italy and Tom Hiddleston picks to talk to you of all the people there, and then you fucking troll him. Something like that happened, only it was somebody gave me a review, and this fake review in my mind highlighted all of the errors and the flaws with this book. Like, Jessie just goes ahead and believes whatever Brooklyn wants. All these people that are fridged characters are there to be fridged. And it's nothing. It's not important. And there was a lot of other things. Like, I almost gave Jessie a cell phone because Jessie doesn't have a cell phone because Brooklyn doesn't have a cell phone. And I just changed a lot of things. But when I started writing this book, you know what was going off in my head? Just every bad decision. Let's make them all. Censor Du Bois' private parts. Anyway, make all of the bad decisions. So I stopped making all of the bad decisions because I had this dream that the guy from What Culture, who pronounces things silly, I can't remember what he is. He's not the one that used to talk about, you know, your mom, and that's my one per list. And you know what? Fuck that guy. When they let me go, I was in the tub, and I was fucking watching What Culture video, and it was like 10 actors who said no to roles, turned down roles, and quite possibly had a better career because of it. And at the end, he said, no matter what someone's going through or what you're doing right now, if you're feeling like what someone's asking you to do would be a compromise of your integrity, don't do it. Because in the end, what will you have to show for it? A few extra dollars or something like that? And it just hit at the right fucking time. And I was stuck crying in the bathtub. And I haven't watched a What Culture video since. But long before, when I was writing this piece of shit in 2019, I can't remember what I was going to say. I had these dreams that it ended up on a list. Number 3 of the top 15 young adult novels with plot contrivances. And now I, for the life of me, cannot remember any of the What Culture people. But it's the Scottish guy, and that's why I remembered it, because he doesn't say contrivance. That would be weird. No Scottish people say contrivance. That just sounds weird. And there used to be this, like, teacher character that was an alcoholic that hated Jessie just even being friends with Brooklyn. And she had this annoying character named Nerida that was a best friend, and I deleted her, and I moved some of the other. There's 2 Irish kids that are friends with her because Jessie ends up being on the drill team. And Where was I going with this? So yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I think it's finally to a point where it's not a terrible book. I think it's finally to a point where if people wanted to read it, they'd read it like, you know, the whole thing and rate it 3 stars. Somebody read 7 pages into The Lord, the Devil, and Him and was like, that's enough. And I don't know how many, like, I got $1 something. Like, I got 73 cents coming my way from Amazon sometime soon. And that's because, oh my god, I'm doing it again, of this book and that book. And I'm not, it doesn't make sense why one would get me like 43 cents and the other one would get me like 34 cents or whatever. But it is what it is. I think somebody read KENP. And here's the thing from thinking. KENP read, that's a half of a cent a page. So you had to have read at least about 100 pages into it for me to get, well, I don't know how much I would get if one was 34, one was 33 cents. Anyway, it's time to go. I've got to actually nap because I work nights. And I've been talking for far too long. I don't know if there was something else I was going to say that was different between these two. I've pinned the 3 videos to the top that are talking about this. It has been a whole thing. Oh, quickly. As if somebody's actually watching. I feel like that guy from Will and Grace where there's one person that's there and it's Molly Shannon or somebody. I don't know. But they're not doing so well. And that makes me happy. And yes, I do frequently check on them to see if they are perhaps trying to steal my book. But they've had one girl, Miss Vomit Up Stupid Lines. Her books have been coming 2022 for some time now. The cats have chosen chaos.